You have found from your studies so far that mind is thought, and thought is a spiritual activity and is therefore endowed with creative power. This does not mean that some thought is creative, but all thought is creative. This same principle can be brought into operation in a negative way, though, through the process of denial. The conscious and the subconscious are but two phases of action in connection with one mind. The relation of the subconscious to the conscious is quite analogous to that existing between a weather vane and the atmosphere. Just as the least pressure of the atmosphere causes an action on the part of the weather vane, so does the least thought entertained by the conscious mind produce within your subconscious mind action in exact proportion to the depth of the feeling characterized by the thought and the intensity of your conscious mind. It follows that if you deny unsatisfactory conditions, you are withdrawing the creative power of your thought from these conditions. If you deny unsatisfactory conditions, you are cutting them away at the root. Remember, the law of growth necessarily governs every manifestation in the objective, in the external. A plant, for example, will remain visible for some time after its roots have been cut, but it will gradually fade away and eventually disappear. So the withdrawal of your thought from the contemplation of unsatisfactory conditions will gradually but surely terminate these conditions. Most people concentrate intently upon unsatisfactory conditions, thereby giving the condition that measure of energy and vitality which it necessarily needs in order to supply a vigorous growth. Welcome to Chapter 14, Part 14, guys, of the Master Key System by Charles Haanel. It's my pleasure to bring you in today. This is a very detailed and impactful chapter. Not that the others were not. I just think we're going to get a little bit more meat today. Today we're going to be talking about the power of the universe within you, the power of the universe within you, the power of the universe, number one, and understanding that the universe is within you, giving you a different perspective on what and where the universe resides. So Haanel is saying here as we open up, it's important. We've been talking a lot about the power of thought being creative, the power of creating habitual positive thinking. Now, in this chapter, he's starting off talking about, all of that works, but just remember it works in the reverse as well. So many people go through their lives just habitually thinking negatively, and just a source of habit, not understanding what they're doing to themselves, that they create and provide the energy for the necessary growth in that arena. And we don't want to do that. We want to be aware of what we're doing, what he calls constructive thinking. All right, so let's jump into it, guys. Chapter 14. The universal energy in which all motion, light, heat, and color have its origin does not partake of the limitation of the many effects of which it is the cause, but it is supreme over them all. It doesn't partake of the limitation, but is supreme over them all. This universal substance is the source of all power, wisdom, and intelligence. To recognize this intelligence is to acquaint yourself with the knowing quality of mind, and through it to move upon the universal substance and bring it into harmonious relations in your affairs. So number one, understand what we're dealing with. We had an example back in chapter 12, I think it was, when we talked about reading the owner's manual within your new car. Understand what it is that we're dealing with so that we can operate correctly. Some will say, if these principles are true, why are we not demonstrating them? As the fundamental principle is obviously correct, why do we not get proper results? Well, we do. We get results in exact accordance with our understanding of the law and our ability to make the proper application. This is critical, guys. This is absolutely critical, because I'll just interject here for 1 second. For me, coming from a religious arena, I always wondered why certain people got results and other people did not. I wondered what I was doing wrong, what they knew that I didn't know. Why was I not getting the types of results that other people were claiming to have gotten? And it was always some sort of mysticism involved. No one really ever knew. No one ever really knew, and therefore were not able to explain to the whole so that everyone could partake. The difference in religion versus spirit and what really drew me to Hanel and the Master Key system was his ability to correlate everything to a scientific law, to a pattern, to a method, to a written method. Here's what you do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's what you don't do. 1, 2, 3, 4. And to understand it, and there not being a mysticism around it. To have applicable processes in place that will support you harmoniously. And there's no question. There's no guesswork involved. So what he's saying here is, when people are saying to you, hey, why doesn't this work for me? I've been praying, or I've been believing for this, or I've been wanting this for a long time and I've never gotten it. Why doesn't it work for me? I see it works for, my friend or my coworker or whatever the case may be. Why isn't it working for me? Or, it works for this group of people and I don't see it working for another group of people. Well, the truth of the matter is that there's no respecter of person. Now, this is a fundamental thing that we're also taught in religion, that God loves everyone, that God so loved the world. So there's no respect of person. So there must be something that we're either doing wrong or not doing at all. So as Hanel says, there's a matter of understanding. We get results in exact accordance with our understanding of the law. So that's really what the Master Key is about. Understanding the law, understanding the power of your thoughts, understanding the importance of habitual positive thinking and what it will do to your life. So let's get back into it. We secured no results from the laws governing electricity, for example, until someone formulated the law and showed us how to apply it. Mind is creative, and the principle upon which this law is based is sound and legitimate and is inherent in the nature of things. But this creative power does not originate in the individual. It doesn't originate in us, okay? But it originates in where? The universal, which is the source and the foundation of our energy and substance. The individual, however, is simply the channel for the distribution of this energy. The individual is the means by which the universal produces the various combinations which result in the formulation of phenomena. I always like to say that we people, humans, are individual and unique expressions of the universal. If you are a physical science or science person at all, you understand, and you've heard this before, I hope at least you have, that the elements which are on our periodic tables and the elements which are in the stars are also found within our bodies. So to understand that we are part of the universe should not be a huge stretch for us, or at least I hope it is not. What Hanel is saying here is that the universe expresses itself through us. We are the actual expression of the universal. We know that scientists have resolved matter into an immense number of molecules. These molecules have been resolved into atoms, and the atoms into electrons. The discovery of electrons in high vacuum glass tubes containing fused terminals of hard metal indicates conclusively that these electrons fill all space, that they exist everywhere, that they are omnipresent. We're not going to get into it really deeply here, but that's a very important statement because it helps us to understand the idea of omnipresence and that there really is no blank or unused space. Just because we can't see what's happening between you and the next person that's beside you, and it looks like some spaces, that really that space is utilized. There's some substance there, and that substance is intelligent. Now, the electrons, they feel all material bodies and occupy the whole of what we call empty space. This then is the universal substance from which all things proceed. This is how all things are built. Electrons would forever remain electrons unless directed where to go to be assembled into atoms and then into molecules by the director, which is the mind. Electrons manifest in the body as cells, and they possess mind and intelligence sufficient for them to perform their functions in the human physical anatomy. Every part of the body is composed of cells, some of which operate independently, others in the communities. For example, some are busy building tissue, while others are engaged in forming various secretions necessary for the body. Some act as carriers of material, others as surgeons who work to repair damage, others as scavengers, others carry waste. Others are consistently and constantly ready to repel invaders or undesirable intruders of the germ body. Now, all these cells are moving for a common purpose, and each one is not only a living organism, but has sufficient intelligence to enable it to perform its necessary duties. Now, it's therefore apparent that there is mind in every atom of the body. It's important to remember that. It is therefore apparent that there is mind, intelligence, in every atom of the body. This mind is negative mind, and the power of the individual to think makes him positive, so that he can control this negative mind. This is the scientific explanation for metaphysical healing, and it will enable anyone to understand the principle upon which the remarkable phenomenon rests. This negative mind, which is contained in every cell of the body, has been called the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, because it acts without our conscious knowledge. Blinking your eyes, sneezing, heartbeats and blood flowing, these sorts of things. It just flows. We have found that this subconscious mind is responsive to the will of the conscious mind, however. The objective world is controlled by an unseen and therefore unexplainable power. We have therefore personalized this power, and heretofore we've called it God. We have, however, learned to look upon it as the permeating essence of principle of all that exists. In other words, the infinite or the universal mind. The universal mind, being infinite and omnipotent, knowing all things, has unlimited resources at its command. And when we remember that it is also omnipresent everywhere, we cannot escape the conclusion that we must be an expression or manifestation of that mind. Here's your nugget for today. This should really empower you. I want you to really listen to what he's saying here. From a scientific standpoint, he's taking it from the electrons all the way to the human anatomy, understanding where the electrons originated, the substance of all things, the universal mind. What we must be follows that we are an expression of the universe. We are part of that. We are part of that omnipotence and omnipresence and omniscience. We are. So I'll say it again. The universal mind, being infinite and omnipotent, has unlimited resources at its command. And when we remember that it is also omnipresent everywhere at the same time, it is all things, we cannot escape the conclusion that we must be an expression or manifestation of that particular mind, the universal mind. A recognition and understanding of the resources of the subconscious mind will indicate that the only difference between the subconscious and the universal is one of degree, size. They differ only as a drop of water differs from the ocean. They are the same in kind and quality. The difference is one of degree only. Now, do you or can you appreciate the value of this all important fact? Do you really get what Hanel is saying here? When you change your perspective about who you are, and all this information should help you go from the little me, whatever your name is, Sarah, Henry, Kelly, from the little me to the large or the big I, the connectivity to the universal. Change your perspective of who you are and the power. There's power in that understanding. Can you appreciate the value of this all-important fact? Do you realize that a recognition of this tremendous fact places you in touch with the omnipotence? The subconscious mind being the connecting link between the universal mind and the conscious mind. You connect through meditation from your individual mind to the universal mind through your subconscious. This is what Hanel is saying here. This is where your power is. That's why there's power in repose. There's power in the silence. When you quiet your mind and you connect to the universal mind, which has access to all things, meaning solutions as well, you're able to come in connection with whatever you need. But you have to come to this understanding. Otherwise, you're going to try to provide a solution from your limited conscious being, from your limited conscious mind. And you've heard this, I hope, before as well, that you cannot solve a problem in the same consciousness where it was created. The solution doesn't reside in that level of consciousness. The solution is always higher. So you must be in a higher level of consciousness in order to gain the solution to the lower level obstacle or opportunity. So it's important that as we remember this and as we study this, that we get that we understand the fact that Hanel is saying we are a part of the omnipotent. Okay? A scientific understanding of this principle will explain the wonderful results which are secured through the power of prayer. The results which are secured in this way are not brought about by any special dispensation of providence, but on the contrary, they are the result of operation of a perfectly natural law. In other words, there's no mysticism here. There is therefore nothing either religious or mysterious about it. We're applying a natural law and we're getting the results. Thought is the only reality. Conditions are but the outward manifestations. As the thought changes, all outward or material conditions must change in order to be in harmony with their creator, which is thought. If you're thinking negatively, downward thoughts, things are going to crumble for you, then of course, eventually things will begin to crumble because you're creating that. If you're thinking upward thoughts, things are coming together for me. You know, I'm moving here, I'm moving there. These things are happening in a positive way, and of course, that will happen. The thought must be clear-cut, though, steady, fixed, definite, unchangeable. You cannot take one step forward and 2 steps backward. Neither can you spend 20 or 30 years of your life building up negative conditions as a result of negative thoughts, and then expect to see them all melt away as a result of 15 or 20 minutes of right thinking. That's important to understand. This is not going to happen overnight. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme type situation. It's going to take some applied practice. If you enter into the discipline necessary to bring about a radical change in your life, you must do so deliberately. After giving the matter careful thought and full consideration, and then you must allow nothing to interfere with your decision. In other words, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fix my mind on this particular discipline. And here is my whatsoever thing. Remember from earlier lectures, if you haven't heard that, go back to other lectures. I'm creating from the end. I'm seeing my achievement manifest, and I'm only concentrating on that. I'm not going to allow any negative thoughts into my mind. I'm not going to entertain negative. It's already done. Now, this discipline, this change of thought, this mental attitude will not only bring you the material things which are necessarily for your highest and best welfare, but will bring health and harmonious conditions also. That's very important as well. There's no need of getting material things and then from a mental standpoint, you're in disarray, or from a health standpoint, you're not able to enjoy them. Mind, body, health, all goes together. Heart health, all of this needs to take place at the same time. So it's important that you remember that as well. If you wish harmonious conditions in your life, you must develop an harmonious mental attitude. Your world without will be a reflection of your world within. Probably the most important thing. Your world without will be a reflection of your world within. Just consider this. Consider this. Many times you may be around people who, I always use this example when I'm teaching my kids certain life lessons. And one of the things that's become very obvious to me is, and I'm not saying approach this from a judgmental standpoint. I'm only telling you to observe without judgment, to observe, because what Hanel is saying here is true. Perhaps you've seen someone in their automobile, it's just disheveled. There's papers in the dashboard, there's stuff all over the seat. I mean, there's stuff everywhere. Your world without is a reflection of your world within. Perhaps you've seen someone in their appearance, they're disheveled. Their clothes are not kept. Their hair, their appearance is simply disheveled. Again, your world without will be a reflection of your world within. I have been over to people's homes and it was in disarray. And we probably all, if not watched it, seen the commercial for this hoarders and different things like that. Your world without will be a reflection of your world within. Even your physical body, even the vessel in which you are being transported through this dimension is unkept. It is extremely overweight or just overweight. Your world without will be a reflection of your world within. All of these changes require a mental attitude adjustment, a change. And just like Hanel is saying, once we change how we see ourselves, when you see yourself no longer as the little me, I can't do this, I'm too small, I need help, but you see yourself connected to the universal I, that omnipresence, that omnipotence, that large creator that spoke things into being. You're that. When you begin to see yourself from that standpoint, the outside world will follow. It will follow. The conditions around you will show that. What's inside will reflect outside. So when you see people, again, I'm not asking you to judge people. I'm asking you to do an experiment so that you can understand what Hanel is saying in a real life sense. When you see people at the grocery store or at school or at work, and you notice a messy environment or some level of dysfunction, remember your world without will be a reflection of your world within. Also remember from your vantage, what am I doing? How do I feel inside? What's reflecting on the outside of me? Okay. So a few takeaways for this week. Part 14, the power of the universe in you, the power of the universe within you. How is the universal how is the universal differentiated into form? Again, this is probably the most important part of this lecture. The individual, you and I. The individual is the means by which the universal produces the various combinations which result in formation of phenomena. That's a long phrase by simply saying we are how the universe does what it wants to do. What is the result of change of thought? A change in conditions. Very simple. What is the result in change of thought? A change in conditions. What is the result of a harmonious mental attitude? Well, you guessed it, harmonious conditions in life. Guys, thanks again for joining me this week. I hope this has been powerful and impacting to you. There's a lot to learn from Hanel. We still have about 9 lectures to go before we complete the Master Key System. So if you've not checked out lectures 1 through 13, please do so on the channel. There's a nice little playlist there for you. Also, check in the description below. We always have a free giveaway for you. Follow us on Facebook and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Wishing you the best. Thanks.